Today we're going to be crocheting this very simple wool beanie using half double crochet stitches. And for our beanie, I am working with the Bauer Alpaca and Merino wool blend yarn. I got this at Joann's and I will link to it in the description for you. And this is a size 4 medium weight yarn, but I will say that this yarn is very thick and honestly a lot thicker than most size 4 yarns that I've worked with. So just keep that in mind. If you are working with a different size 4 yarn, it might be a little bit smaller. And if you're interested in using up the rest of your second skein, check the links in the description for a quick and easy headband to match. I'm also going to be using a size I or 9 or 5 1/4 millimeter crochet hook. So we're going to begin with a simple slip knot. To do that, you're just going to twist your working yarn over your tail to create a little loop. I like to pinch my intersection and then insert my fingers into my loop facing down toward my working yarn. Grab your working yarn and then pull it up through your loop. Hold on to your tail and your working yarn to tighten that slip knot. From here, you can slide your crochet hook into your loop and then pull on your tail and working yarn to tighten that loop down on your crochet hook. From here, we're just going to chain 60, so yarn over and pull through your loop to create your chain stitches. And if you're new to crochet, make sure that you aren't tightening down on your yarn. You want to keep this nice and loose and allow your crochet hook to determine the size of your chains. And once you have your 60 chains in place, then I want you to make sure that you don't have any twists and turns in your little chain rope here. We're going to be crocheting a circle with this, so if you have any twists and turns, your circle will have twists and turns. So once you've untwisted your rope, grab your first little chain stitch here. What we're going to do is draw it up to our current stitch right here. And you can see that this is the traditional part of our stitch that we would normally work in. But for this project, I want you to turn your chains slightly so that you can access this third loop or back bump back here. And we're going to begin with the first back bump. So slide your crochet hook in this first back bump to place a slip stitch. And we're going to place a slip stitch. So yarn over and drop your 2 loops on your crochet hook. So from here, we're going to place 1 single crochet back in our current back bump. So to do that, insert your crochet hook in the back bump. And you can line your tail up with your back bumps and work right over it like it is part of your stitches if you would like to. From here, we're going to yarn over and drop our tail in our back bump, and then we're going to yarn over and drop our 2 loops for that single crochet. For the rest of the row, we're going to be placing 1 half double crochet in each of our back bumps. So to do that, yarn over and then slide your crochet hook in your next back bump, line your tail up with your back bump, and we're going to yarn over and drop the back bump and then yarn over and drop the 3 loops that are on our crochet hook. And so we're just going to continue placing our half double crochet stitches going around our row. And when we make it back to our little slip stitch, we should have a total of 59 half double crochets and 1 single crochet. And at the end of your row, it should look something like this. And again, you just want to make sure that you don't have any twists and turns. This can easily twist while you're working on it. So we're just going to make sure we clean that up before we start with our next row. What we're going to do next is actually work between our half double crochet stitches. So you can see here that each half double crochet forms a tiny little stem. And what we want to do is work right here in the gap between our stitches rather than in the top portion of our V like we normally would. So you're going to be capturing all of this mess right up here in your crochet hook for this project. So there's a pretty sizable gap if you just slide your finger in between your stitches that you can see, and that's where you're going to insert your crochet hook. So we want to skip our first little single crochet right here at the beginning of our row, and in this gap right here between our single crochet and our first half double crochet, we're going to place 2 half double crochets. And that has created our first little V. From here, we're going to skip our next 2 half double crochets and then work 2 half double crochets right here in the gap between our second and third half double crochet. And for the remainder of our row, we're just going to repeat that process, skipping 2 half double crochets and then working in the gap between our second and third half double crochet. And when you get to the end of your row, you should have 1 half double crochet left and a total of 60 half double crochets. And when you get to the end of your row, you should have 1 little half double crochet remaining. As you can see, this is a spiral pattern, which means we won't have to worry about starting and stopping our individual rows, but it does create this awkward little gap right here. So we're going to go ahead and just clean that up before we continue on with our spiral. So to clean this up, we're just going to chain 2, and then I want you to turn your beanie inside out like this to work on the back side of your beanie. And all we're going to do is just simply slip stitch these 2 together. So you're just going to slide your crochet hook right here in these loops next to your gap, and then right here at the top of your gap. So you should have both of those on your crochet hook, and then we're just going to yarn over and pull through for a slip stitch. From here, we're just going to chain 2 to bring us back up to our current row. So you can see that this is what the front looks like and this is what the back looks like. So for our next row, we're going to skip this little half double crochet at the end of our row, and we're going to do something I like to call splitting our V's. So basically, to split your V, you're just going to place 2 half double crochets in the gap between the 2 half double crochets that form your V's. So you're just going to yarn over and insert your crochet hook between your 2 half double crochets, just like we were doing in the previous row, and then yarn over and pull up through your V, and yarn over and drop your 3 loops. So you're going to place your 2 half double crochets between each of your V's, going all the way around your row for a total of 60 half double crochets. And when you get to the end of your row, you can start to see your vertical ridges coming in. And we need to do one more thing to clean up our spiral gap there, and that is to place a slip stitch right here in our little chain rope where we were working in the bottom of our beanie and we needed to come up to our current row. So all you're going to do is slide your crochet hook in this little rope gap here and then place a slip stitch. From here, we're just going to split our V's going around our row. And when you make it to the end of your row, make sure you skip your little slip stitch here. And then we're just going to continue splitting our V's in this spiral pattern until we run out of yarn. So I have crocheted my beanie until I have run out of yarn. So now we're just going to add in more yarn. So make sure you leave enough yarn that you can still work half of a stitch and have enough for a sizable tail that won't pull out. From here, we're just going to work half of a stitch. So we're going to yarn over and insert our crochet hook in our V, yarn over and pull up through. And when we have these 3 loops on our crochet hook, go ahead and take your tail and hold it behind you. We're going to grab our next strand of yarn and just yarn over with that yarn strand, holding onto our tail while we work so that it doesn't move. From here, I like to secure these two tails together with a couple of knots on the inside of the beanie. You don't want these to be too loose or too tight because that will mess with your stitch size. From here, grab the shorter of your two tails if you have one. Place the other tail to the side. From here, we're just going to continue to split our V's with our new strand of yarn, and we're going to work over our short tail in this row, and then when we get around to this point in our next row, we're just going to grab that longer tail and work right over it as well. And once you have your 18 rows where you've been splitting your V's or 19 rows of half double crochets, your beanie should look something like this. So what we're going to do from here is simply place one half double crochet in each of our V's instead of two. So you're just going to continue to split your V's, but with only one of those stitches. And that will decrease the number of half double crochets in this row down to 30. And once you've placed your first few stitches, you can go ahead and just mark the first of those stitches so you know that when you make it back to your stitch marker that your row is over. Once you make it around to your stitch marker, you can see we've started to cinch up the top. So now what I want you to do is just go ahead and remove your stitch marker. And with your crochet hook still in your loop, cut a really long tail of about 1 foot, give or take. You're going to be weaving this in and out of your stitches, so you do need a little bit of extra length here. Save the rest of your skein because we're going to be making a headband with it in another video that I will link to in the description. From here, I want you to slide your crochet hook in the top of your next stitch, and we're going to yarn over and pull through everything on our crochet hook, and then we're going to pull our tail through our loop to tie off our yarn like this. Next, we're going to weave our tail in and out of our last row of half double crochet stitches, just working in the gaps in between those stitches, so that we can create a cinch for the top of our beanie. Once you're done weaving your tail, go ahead and give it a nice big pull to cinch up the top of your beanie. And what we need to do is just tie this cinch off. And once I have the hole cinched up, then I just usually find a couple of loops on the opposite side of this hole to tie off my cinch. Once you've tied this off a few times, then go ahead and move your tail to the inside of your beanie, and you can use it to attach a pom-pom. If you're not looking to attach a pom-pom, you can go ahead and hide it on the inside of your beanie, along with any other tails that you might have left over. And if you're interested in attaching a beanie tag like I did, check the links in the description for that tutorial, and I actually featured this beanie in it, so it's kind of perfect. If this video helped you, please consider giving it a like and also subscribe to my channel, Crochet with Julie. Thank you so much for working with me, and I hope you have a wonderful, awesome day.